Welcome to The Explainer. So today, we're diving into the hidden neuroscience of anxiety. And I promise you, it is absolutely not what you think. Look, we've all heard the standard textbook story before, right? A threat appears out of nowhere, your amygdala sounds the alarm, stress hormones just flood your system, and boom, you're in full-on fight-or-flight mode. And, well, that's true, but it's really only a tiny fraction of the whole story. Today, we're moving way past that basic fight-or-flight explanation. We're going to explore some genuinely fascinating research that almost never makes it into the mainstream conversation. Research that is literally rewriting how scientists understand fear itself.
So, if it isn't just an automatic reaction to something scary in your environment, where does your anxiety actually start? Underneath that old amygdala explanation lies a pretty wild mystery. Because, get this, your anxiety might not actually begin in your mind at all. It might start down in your gut. Or it could start in a hidden heartbeat signal, a physical message your body sent way before your conscious brain ever even registered that something was wrong. You know that sudden, completely inexplicable drop in your stomach? Yeah, let's peel back the layers on where that actually comes from.
For decades, the conventional wisdom treated anxiety exactly like a reaction. You know, something dangerous happens out in the world, the brain detects it, and then the body reacts. Simple, right? Well, actually, scratch that. Neuroscience has fundamentally moved past this outdated model. We now know for sure that your brain is not simply a reactor waiting around for the world to happen to it.
And this brilliantly illustrates one of the most influential new frameworks in neuroscience today, predictive processing. Think about it this way. The old model treated your brain like a smoke detector, just passively sitting up on the ceiling, waiting for a fire to start before going off. But this new framework, it shows that your brain actually acts way more like a meteorologist. It's constantly forecasting. It's continuously predicting the world around you, building a highly detailed forecast of what's about to happen based on literally every single experience you've ever had. And it does this before anything actually occurs.
This completely changes the game. The brilliant psychologist and neuroscientist Lisa Feldman Barrett has done some incredible research showing that our emotions aren't just these hardwired automatic reactions. Instead, anxiety is essentially your brain's best guess. It takes your past experiences, your current physical body signals, and the context of your environment, and it instantly makes a prediction. This is a massive paradigm shift, folks. It means anxiety doesn't actually need an external trigger to exist. Often, the brain's own internal prediction is the very thing that triggers the anxiety.
Okay, let's dive into this, because here's where things get super fascinating. Your brain isn't just predicting what's happening on the outside. It's also constantly predicting what's happening inside your own body. Scientists call this interoception. Basically, it's your brain's continuous, 24/7 processing of your internal physical states. Stuff like your heartbeat, the rhythm of your breathing, your gut activity, your blood sugar levels. This whole internal surveillance system is managed largely by a brain region called the insular cortex. And normally, it runs completely quietly in the background. You don't even know what's happening.
But in an anxious brain, this normally quiet interoceptive system can get noisy, like incredibly oversensitive. Research from places like the Lauria Institute for Brain Research shows that folks with anxiety disorders process these internal signals totally differently. Imagine you just have a slightly faster heartbeat because you drank one too many coffees, or maybe a tight chest because you've been hunched over your desk all day, or even just a rumbling stomach from hunger. Your insular cortex detects that signal, but your anxious forecasting brain misreads that completely normal, harmless sensation as an early warning sign of severe danger. This is exactly why anxiety can feel like it drops out of thin air. It isn't coming from nowhere. It's literally just your own body being misinterpreted.
Let's transition our journey even deeper into the body, to a place that most mental health conversations completely ignore: your digestive system. Your gut actually contains its own highly complex, massive network of neurons called the enteric nervous system. It's so sophisticated, so independent, that scientists frequently call it your second brain. So when people talk about having butterflies in your stomach or trusting a gut feeling, yeah, your stomach was never just a metaphor. There is serious, heavy-duty neurological hardware down there.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the sheer scale of what your gut is actually responsible for. Check out this massive disparity. Roughly 90% of your body's serotonin is produced right there in your gut. Only 10% is made in your brain. And serotonin, as you probably know, is absolutely crucial for mood and emotional regulation. To put that into perspective, the fact that the vast majority of this vital neurotransmitter originates in your digestive system completely flips the traditional script on how we view mental health and mood disorders. It's wild. Which brings us to the main communication line between your gut and your brain, the vagus nerve. Now, there's this huge myth out there that the traffic only travels downward, the brain barking orders at the body. But the reality of the gut-brain axis is that most of the traffic on that neural highway actually travels from the body up to the brain. Your gut is doing the talking, and your brain is doing the listening. Emerging science is showing us that the trillions of bacteria in your digestive system directly influence neurotransmitter activity and stress hormones. It's a two-way street. Anxiety can absolutely wreck your gut, sure. But crucially, an unsettled gut can actually intensify your anxiety by shooting distress signals upward, meaning treating your anxiety might actually require treating your digestion first.
Let's track those signals back up to the brain for a second. I want to introduce you to a neural network you might not be familiar with. It's called the default mode network. This is the part of your brain that lights up when your mind is totally unfocused. It's what's active when you're just daydreaming, or lying awake at 2 a.m. staring at the ceiling, or, replaying that awkward conversation you had 3 days ago. It's the absolute center of your inner monologue. And really importantly, it's where rumination lives. When you're not actively doing a task, this network turns your brain's predictive system entirely inward.
And brain imaging studies reveal something staggering. In people who struggle with anxiety, this default mode network shows completely altered patterns of activity. Instead of just quietly humming along in the background, it gets stuck in a brutal loop. It runs these vivid, worst-case simulations of the future and obsessively replays past failures. Remember that forecasting brain we talked about earlier? This is that exact same system, but now it's simulating future threats based on past trauma or stress. You aren't just worrying. Your brain is actively rehearsing for danger, trying to keep you safe. But the tragic irony here is that when these simulations constantly skew toward danger, the rehearsal itself becomes your main source of suffering.
I really want you to take a step back with me for a second and look at the whole picture we've just uncovered. A forecasting brain, a misread bodily signal, a gut firing distress signals upward, a default mode network endlessly rehearsing worst-case scenarios. When you view anxiety through this scientific lens, you realize it is just a full-body predictive system trying, albeit imperfectly, to protect you. It is so incredibly important to hear this. It is not a character flaw. It's not a weakness. It's just your biology working exactly as it was built to work. It's just using outdated or overly sensitive data. If you've ever felt anxious and thought, there's absolutely no reason for me to feel this way, there genuinely may be a physical reason. It's just a reason your conscious mind never had access to.
So, the crucial point is, how do we actually rewire this system? Well, the evidence points to 4 main areas. First up, interoceptive awareness. Things like body scan meditations help you gently notice physical sensations without instantly labeling them as dangerous, which helps recalibrate that oversensitive alarm system. Second, supporting your gut health. Loading up on fiber and fermented foods is a massive, growing area of interest for calming the gut-brain axis. Third, mindfulness practices. Brain imaging shows these can actually reduce the hyperactivity in that default mode network, quite literally interrupting the rumination loop. And finally, gradual exposure to uncertainty safely helps your brain update its forecasts. Every single time you survive a situation your brain predicted was dangerous, you actively change the prediction itself.
Now, obviously none of this replaces professional care. But understanding these mechanics, it makes the path forward feel a lot less like an unsolvable mystery and way more like a system you can actually tweak and work with. Which leaves us with this final thought. What if your anxiety isn't actually your enemy, but just a biological system trying, imperfectly, to protect you? Think about how that fundamentally shifts your perspective on your own mind. I'd love to hear what surprised you most about this, so drop a comment below. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll see you in the next one.